This is Chapter 4, The Market Forces of Supply and Demand. In this chapter, there is markets and competition. A market is a group of buyers and sellers of a particular product. A competitive market is one with many buyers and sellers. And in this chapter, we will always assume that markets are perfectly competitive. A perfectly competitive market is that all goods are exactly the same. In this chapter, there is demand. Demand is the behavior of buyers. We will also talk about the law of demand, which is when price goes up, demand goes down, and quantity of demand of a good falls when the price of the good rises. In this chapter, there are also demand curve shifters. A way to remember the demand curve shifters is tribe. T stands for taste, if they like the good or not. R stands for related goods, and there are substitutes and complements. I stands for income, if it is a normal or inferior good. B stands for the numbers of buyers in the market. And lastly, E stands for expectations of what will happen. An example of a demand curve shifting would be when the price of CDs fall and people are already demanding the music downloads, and I'm getting all the music downloads. So that would be the demand curve 1 before any shift. And because the price of CDs fall, the price of music download, or the demand for music downloads, will shift to the left because more people are going to go to buying more CDs because they're cheaper. And the CDs in this case would be substitutes. There is also supply, and supply comes from the behavior of sellers. The quantity supplied of any good is the amount that sellers are willing and able to sell. There is also the law of supply, which is the claim that the quantity supplied of a good rises when the price of the good rises and other things equal, just like the law of demand, but for this it is supply, and it is what the sellers have. The supply curve shifters can be remembered as site. S stands for the number of sellers. I stands for the input, and you can always remember to include the taxes. T stands for technology. If there is a technology advancement, the supply curve will shift. And E stands for the expectations that the sellers have. An example of a shift in supply could be because of a new source of technology advancement in a company. So before the technology, we have the first supply curve, which would look like that, S1. And with the new technology, it will shift the curve to the right. When supply and demand are together, it forms equilibrium, which is the point in the middle, labeling it right here.